The fire crackled weakly, casting long, jittery shadows across the clearing. The forest beyond was a wall of black, silent except for the occasional rustle of unseen things. The group of friends sat in a tight circle, their faces pale in the flickering light. The air was cold, unnaturally so, and the smoke from the fire seemed to drift upward too slowly, like time itself had thickened. "Tell me you heard that," Sarah whispered, clutching her blanket tighter. "No one heard anything," Mark snapped, trying to sound confident but failing. His eyes darted toward the trees anyway. It started with a noise, soft, distant, and wrong. It wasn't the hoot of an owl or the rustling of leaves. It was a voice, faint and barely audible, as if carried on the wind. "Who's out there?" Jake called, his voice trembling. He stood, holding a flashlight, but its beam seemed feeble against the dense dark. The voice came again, closer this time. It was a whisper, mimicking Jake's words. "Who's out there?" "Cut it out," Amy hissed, her nails digging into her knees. "This isn't funny. No one's joking," Jake said, his hand shaking so hard the flashlight beam wavered. The voice repeated itself, mockingly playful. "Who's out there?" Mark stood and threw a log onto the fire, as if more light would chase away the fear. "It's probably some animal, maybe an echo. We're in the middle of nowhere, after all." But then it laughed. Low, guttural, and very, very human. Amy screamed, and the others shushed her frantically, as if trying not to wake something else. The laugh faded into silence, but the air seemed heavier now, pressing down on them. The voice came again, clearer this time. "Where are you?" "It's in the trees," Sarah whispered, her eyes fixed on the blackness. "It's moving." The group huddled together as the whisper circled them, the voice growing louder, overlapping itself. "Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?" Jake took a step forward, shaking his head. "No, no way. Someone's messing with us." "Jake, don't," Amy pleaded, but he was already walking toward the trees. The voice stopped. Dead silence. Not even the crackle of the fire remained. The group froze, staring after Jake, who stood at the edge of the clearing, his flashlight beam swallowed by the shadows. "See," Jake called back. "Nothing here, it's just..." The flashlight dropped. A wet, snapping noise followed. Then silence. "Jake," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of her heart. A figure stepped into the firelight. At first, they thought it was Jake. Same height. Same build. But its movements were wrong, jerky, like a puppet with tangled strings. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle, and its face was blank. It opened its mouth, but instead of Jake's voice, the whispers spilled out. "Where are you? Who's out there?" The group screamed and scrambled back as the thing took another step forward. The fire sputtered violently, casting monstrous shadows across its featureless face. "Run," Mark hissed, grabbing Sarah's arm. But the whispers didn't come from the figure anymore. They came from the trees, the ground, the air itself. Surrounding them. Closing in. They ran. Into the dark. Into the cold. The whispers chased them, repeating their words, laughing, taunting. "Run, run, run." One by one, the voices picked them off. First Sarah, then Amy, their screams cutting off abruptly. Mark tripped and fell, the whispers swarming him. When he turned, the figure stood over him, its blank face impossibly close. By dawn, the clearing was empty, the fire cold and dead. Only the faint echo of laughter lingered, carried by the wind. When Mark didn't return, the woods fell deathly silent. The kind of silence that made your ears ring, that filled the void with your own heartbeat. Amy was the only one left. Her legs burned as she ran, tripping over gnarled roots and slick patches of moss. The whispers seemed to stalk her every move, shifting from distant murmurs to soft, breathy words just behind her ear. "Why are you running?" Her chest heaved as she stumbled to a stop, gripping the bark of a tree for support. She glanced around wildly. Shadows danced in her peripheral vision, unnatural, wrong, moving when they shouldn't. "I'm not listening," Amy screamed, her voice cracking. She clapped her hands over her ears. But the whispers didn't need her ears. They were inside her head now. "Amy, Amy, Amy." A sharp snap behind her made her spin around. A figure emerged from the trees, but it wasn't Mark. It wasn't Jake or Sarah. It was all of them, stitched together in some grotesque mockery of life. Mark's arm, Jake's face, Sarah's twisted smile. It cocked its head, like a bird studying prey. Then, in a voice that didn't belong to any of them, it spoke, "Stay with us." Amy's scream tore through the forest as she turned and ran. The whispers followed, louder, angrier. Her lungs burned, her vision blurred, but she couldn't stop. Not until she saw it, a faint glow in the distance. The campfire. She burst into the clearing, falling to her knees in the dirt. The fire was roaring now, impossibly bright, crackling with a sound that was almost like voices. She stared into the flames, her mind grasping for something, anything, that made sense. The fire shifted, and the voices became clearer. It wasn't crackling. It was laughing. Behind her, the forest edge shimmered, and the stitched-together figure emerged again, slowly, deliberately, as if savoring her terror. Amy grabbed a log from the fire, holding it out like a torch. "Stay back," she screamed. The figure stopped, tilting its head again. Then it smiled, an unnatural, jagged grin that didn't fit its stolen face. "Fire won't save you." The flames surged higher, and for a brief moment, Amy thought she saw faces in them. Familiar faces. Mark. Jake. Sarah. Their mouths moved in unison, whispering something she couldn't hear. The figure lunged. Amy swung the burning log wildly, but it passed through the creature like smoke. The whispers consumed her, louder, deafening, until there was nothing but darkness. The next morning, a group of hikers stumbled upon the campsite. The fire was cold, the ashes scattered. There was no sign of the campers, only their voices, faint and distant, carried on the wind. If you stood still and listened, you might hear them calling, "Where are you?"